Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope everybody's day is going great. Mine is, and holy crap, the South Korean roster has been announced, and it is scary. And it's actually crazy, guys. The players didn't even try out for this roster. The South Korean committee just selected them all. They were just like, Carpe, I choose you! Like, what the hell is going on, dude? This is crazy. And honestly, the roster is just so stacked. We're going to cover the entire thing. As well as that, guys, the France roster is out, the Taiwan roster, and there's just so many Overwatch World Cup announcement teams that we have to go over. I don't know if there's enough time in the day, guys. So let's just go ahead and start this video off. We have to cover this South Korean situation, guys. If you're new around here, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to my channel for more Overwatch League content. I upload every single day, guys. And now, yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. So this is the 12-man South Korean roster, guys. So starting off with the DPS players, we have Saebyeolbe from New York Excelsior. I mean, do we need an introduction for this guy? We don't need an introduction for any of these guys. We all know them. Libero from NYXL, Carpe from the Philadelphia Fusion, Fleta from Seoul Dynasty. Now, at first glance, you notice there's no Prophet, there's no Birdring, there's no Seiya player, Architect, Striker, some really good players that could have been here, but aren't. Moving on to the tanks. Let's start off with the off tanks. We have Mako from the New York Excelsior and Fury from London Spitfire. Now, these are two really good off tanks. Probably would have picked these two guys as well. I know there's Zunba, who was on the last teams, but I do think these guys were definitely shoo-ins. Way better performers in the Overwatch League when you look at Zunba's performance this year. Sure, it was decent, but nowhere near Fury's or Mako's. They were clearly the two standouts. Now, moving on to the main tanks where, you know, this is where it got hard again. We have Fate from the LA Valiant and Fisher from the LA Gladiators. So both Los Angeles teams, main tanks, made this roster. And surprisingly enough, we're not seeing Gesture. Now, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. Gesture is amazing, but Fate is also really good as well. I would definitely rate Gesture a little bit higher than Fate just from the outside looking in. Maybe the South Korean committee guys know more about the players, their team communication, stuff like that. But then again, I don't know because they didn't do tryouts. So Fate's amazing. Fisher's amazing. Gesture's amazing. It's just a really hard pick. One of them was not going to make it. So, and Gesture missed out, I guess. The only logical thing I can think of right now is maybe because London Spitfire just dropped off in the second half of the season, and, you know, it didn't seem like it was mainly Gesture's fault, or really even his fault at all. But in Stage 4, he did die a lot. Like, he was up there with some of the main takes in the league that were just dead 24/7, like Fraggy has been in the past, so that could have had an impact on it. But, you know, I feel like it was his team more so than not. LA Valiant, they were on fire, though. Fate was playing amazingly, so I can see where they made this call. It's definitely a really hard call to make there. The two players are both amazing. I can see where they're coming from, though. So, yeah, unlucky for Gesture, I guess. Moving on to the support players for South Korea, we have Arc from the New York Excelsior. We have Jay Jonak from the New York Excelsior. Obviously, this duo is absolutely insane. Then the next two guys, we actually have another New York Excelsior support, Animo, and then Kariv from the LA Valiant. I like Kariv being on this list. I definitely think he should be up there. It's just like, when you think about it, whose spot is he really taking? He's taken Ryujihong's spot, guys. And it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around this, guys. Think about it. We're looking at a South Korean World Cup roster without Ryujihong is absolutely insane. He has just been a staple to this South Korean Overwatch team for the past 2 years. In 2016 and 2017, he was the star of the team, him and Miro. Now, not seeing Miro on this list, that isn't surprising to me. He didn't have that great of a performance in the Overwatch League this season. For Zunba, again, you know, I do think Fury and Mako were the shoo-ins. Zunba probably the next guy in line, but there was a pretty big gap. Unlike the gap between like Fate and Fisher and Gesture and Carpe, Saebyeolbe, Fleta, Libero, and Prophet, I feel like the gaps there are very, very small margins. So back onto the supports, I think Kariv made a huge impact this season for the LA Valiant. He also has proved that he's not just amazing at that flex support role, but he can also flex to some DPS roles. So if you ever need something like that from him, He could do it. You probably won't, but it's there. As for Jae Hong, honestly, he just didn't have that great of a season. Seoul Dynasty, they flopped hard, and, you know, he didn't really do anything that impressive. Sure, his Zenyatta play was decent overall, but it was nothing spectacular, and I do think Kariv definitely deserves that spot. As for the 3 NYXL guys, I mean, what can you say about them? They've been the best backline in all of Overwatch League for the entire season. And this roster overall is just so stacked, man. And the crazy thing is, as I've already mentioned, there's so many players that missed out. There is enough players to make another 12-man Korean roster that could probably win the whole entire thing if these guys didn't compete. I mean, screw it. I might as well just go, let's make one. I'm going to make a 12-man roster without any of these players and see if they're good enough to win the entire thing. I'll be right back, guys. Give me maybe 10 minutes. Guys, I literally just spent 3 minutes making myself another South Korean roster. It was so easy. For DPS players, we have Prophet from London Spitfire, Seiya player from the Florida Mayhem, Architect from the San Francisco Shock, Striker from the Boston Uprising. I'm willing to argue that this DPS lineup is nearly, I'm not saying they are as good as the other one, but they're nearly as good. Prophet, I mean, the guy's amazing. He can literally play the Brigitte, he can play the Tracer, he can play the Genji. He's going to have a top tier performance on anything you need. He can easily fill the role of Libero, Carpe, Saebyeolbe in that main roster, and it wouldn't even seem like any of them are gone. Moving on to the next guy, we have Seiya player. Now, whoever is going to be playing Widowmaker for this main roster, Carpe or Fleta, Seiya player can probably do just as good. Maybe not as good, one notch under, maybe even better. You never know. So that's covered. As for the flex player, we have Architect instead of Libero. Architect, he can also play that Widowmaker. He can play that Genji. He can play that Pharah. I'm not willing to say that he's just as good as Libero, but he is close, man. Then you look at the Tracers. You have Striker, you have Saebyeolbe. I mean, you know, Saebyeolbe, obviously the best Tracer in the world. Striker's not far behind. He is really, really close. So you don't miss that much here, guys. This DPS lineup's absolutely insane. Now, moving on to my main tanks, I have Gesture from the London Spitfire and Mano from the New York Excelsior. Again, it's pretty much laughable about how, like, good Gesture and Mano are, and they're not even on the World Cup team. Like, let's do it. Let's literally get a scale. Let's put Gesture and Mano on the left side, then put Fate and Fisher on the right side. I guarantee you, it is dead even. And if not, the difference is like 0.00 pounds. Like, it's just absolute, it's nuts. I'm done. Like, it's so unfair. Like, not only to every team in the World Cup that is going to get destroyed by this main roster, but it's also unfair to these players like Gesture, Mano, Prophet, Architect. Like, they deserve to be on a World Cup team as well because they're so freaking good. Like, oh man, I'm losing it, guys. I'm losing it. All right, let me finish my second World Cup Korean roster. For supports, we have Bedosin from the London Spitfire, we have Ryu Jahong from Seoul Dynasty, Toby from Seoul Dynasty, and Nako from Boston Uprising. Now, I could see here where there's probably a decent gap between the main roster and these guys. Obviously, when you have Jonak and Arc, you're just going to be light years ahead of anybody. Literally, light years. So, you know, if those guys didn't exist, these would be the top supports in the world. The Bedosin, Jahong, Toby, Nako. They'd be the best. So there might be a gap, but they're still really damn good, and these guys combined with all the other players I put on this list would definitely be a stacked team. So that's pretty much it, guys. Like, this roster, in my opinion, would definitely wipe the floor with almost any roster in the World Cup. Maybe they'd have some competition with Canada, USA, and maybe France. I don't know though, man. Korea's just too strong. It's crazy, guys. And that's pretty much it for the South Korean roster. You guys let me know overall, do you think like the South Korean roster is just too good? Are they going to wipe the floor with everybody? What do you think about my second team? Would they be able to wipe the floor with everybody as well? It's crazy. No tryout process. Let me know what you think about that. And let's go ahead and move on now. Alright, and as I mentioned earlier, guys, South Korea wasn't the only major roster announced today. Also, France was announced, and these guys are pretty damn good as well. Let's just go ahead and hop into it. And thank God, this is actually so nice. So what the France guys did in their announcement, they had the coach write a little comment about each player. So now I don't have to like dig into them if, you know, they're unknown and give you guys a little introduction. It's already done by their own coach. So let's just go ahead and hop into it, starting with the tanks. We have Ben Best. Now, Ben Best arrived at these trials with a complete and structured kit of his own. Whether it's about his level of play, his game sense, but especially the in-game leading. It's a clear round for the tank player from Nice. Moving on to the second main tank, we have Kolstey. Like his partner Ben Best, Kolstey presented the undeniable qualities required for the position of the best French main tank. With an assumed preference for strategy and team building, Kolstey will be very important for this French team. Now moving on to the off tanks, we have Poko. I don't think it's necessary to introduce Poko. Bold, but above all talented. He left his mark on the entire Overwatch League community at the beginning of the season. This World Cup will be a new step to highlight the talent of this player. Moving on to the second off tank, we have Suh. S-H-U-H. Clearly introduced as an underdog, almost unknown. Today I consider Suh as the talent that came out of nowhere. Level of play, communication, he was ready, and no matter what matchup he had faced, which was a big surprise. The question now, will it be possible for him to grow to a whole new level? In any case, I have complete faith in him. Now moving on to the DPS players, we have Soon. Soon is an incredibly powerful, constant player and the centerpiece of our French team. His investment on Overwatch is second to none, and his success switch from Tracer to Widow has proven very clearly that he is one of the best DPS in the world. Moving on to the second DPS player, we have AKM. Dallas was in a chaotic season, in need of a player willing to sacrifice everything, but AKM didn't give up and is a very important asset for any team. Ready for the next meta, he will be a key element of our success this year. Moving on to the third DPS player, we have Asking. Just like Suh and Kolstey, Asking is a player who has climbed the ladder from the very first season in Phase 1 to the journey through Phase 2 to finally join the French team. He will be Soon's direct partner with Widowmaker, which will give him a lot of experience as well as good practice for both players. Moving on to the last DPS player, we have Nico. Nico is one of those few players who have been able to use the right tools in the right way to grow at the highest level, mechanically second to none. He also has a hero pool and game intelligence that the French team can make good use of. Very happy to welcome such an important player to our national team. Now moving on to the support players, we have uNKOE. After his journey during the first Overwatch League season and the best possible outcome in Stage 4 with amazing performances, I could feel uNKOE's thirst for competition with this World Cup at end of the road. His talent as well as his communication skills will be a key factor for our French team. Moving on to the next support player, we have Hyp, H-Y-P. Exemplary is the adjective that best suits Hyp. Performing steady with a good leadership when needed, he has all the qualities of a great Zenyatta of our French elite. It's very important for the team to have an asset like Hyp. Moving on to the third support, we have Wins. I didn't expect to see Wins at the top level this year, but these trials taught me not to bury a player of his caliber. Apart from the fact that Wins is a very intelligent player, he has above all managed to present a level of play that exceeded my expectations, enough to join the French team, which was really no easy task. And the last player of them all, we have Dr. Hydro. This year highlights the young talents of our beautiful and growing French scene. Today, Dr. Hydro is clearly the forerunner, just like Wins. Dr. Hydro, I'm probably saying this guy's name so wrong. I don't know if it's Dridro, Doctor, why am I saying doctor? I'm so dumb, oh god. Anyways, Dridro, whatever his name is, clearly exceeded my expectations on what I hope to see from Mercy players in France. Both are dangerously close to an Overwatch League level, and that's only good news for our French team this year. And there it is, guys. That is the French team. Pretty strong, honestly, and I was surprised to see Wins on here as well, teaming back up with his brother AKM. I mean, he's been out of the scene for a very long time, so kudos to him for, you know, staying at that high level and being able to make it. And overall, these guys are pretty stacked. I mean, looking at Soon, AKM, Unco, Poco. Those are 5 super strong Overwatch League players there. And if all these other players can play and keep up to the same level that those guys are playing at, this can be a super strong team. Definitely a contender for top 4 without a doubt in my mind. So let me know what you guys think down below about the French team, what you think about anything in this video. And that's going to be it for me. Thank you for watching. If you're new around here, click the like button, subscribe to my channel for more daily content, check out my Fortnite video that I posted last night, link will be down below. I think it's a really good video, and I'm out of here, guys. Thank you for watching. Peace.